Hey folks, Justin in the shed, gearing up the yak, ready for a session in the morning. I'm going to catch the last of the run-in tide, and I'm going to have my first fish with the finished product of the ST GrubZ. So stay tuned, we're going to hit the water early and test drive the ZMan ST GrubZ. Fish on. Alright, good morning folks. This morning we are out on a big flat on the last of the run-in tide. I've spent about an hour getting to here, paddling, so hopefully we can get a fish off here. It's been pretty average weather lately. We've had a bit of rain again, so the water's dirty, and we've got not much movement in this tide, so it's a high-low point. It's a high-low and it's a low-high. It's about 70 centimeters of water movement, which can make the bite a bit tough as well, but we're out here having a crack. We've got some gusty winds blowing off and on, so I'll try to keep the wind out of the mic for you. This morning we are swimming this guy, so this is my first time swimming the finished product of the 2.5 inch ST GrubZ. It looks awesome. We've been excited through the development process, and the finished product is beautiful, so we'll talk a bit about it while we're fishing it and see if we can get our first fish on the finished product. I've seen some cool pics and videos of you guys catching on them, which is great. The first feature you'll notice about this is that ribbed body. It's a heavily ribbed body, and our thought with that is we want to make this the ultimate finesse grub, so that heavily ribbed body makes it feel really soft and natural. It's going to create micro vibrations in the water, and it also increases the surface area of this plastic. So when I put scent on, like I just have done then, I put some Procure on there, there's a lot more surface area with all those ribs to be dispersing that scent and also to effectively hold that scent. So at the moment I'm just trying to cover the flat, long casts, twitchy and slow retrieves, and I'm just listening and looking for any sort of giveaway that there might be some fish up on here, whether it be some bait flicking or fish busting on the top or any sort of movement that might give me a starting point. Yep, there we go, there's a fish. Taking us a little while, probably 20 or so casts to get the first fish. And my first fish on an ST GrubZ is a Brembo. Not a big fish, but he's eating that, no worries. Stoked with that. Hopefully he's got a few big brothers out there. There you go, that's that ST GrubZ. Eaten by that little bloke. Nice corner of the jaw hookup. Opening night colour on a 1/8 ounce 1.0 TT HeadlockZ Finesse Jighead. Oh yep, there's another one. Yep, we might have found a little patch of them. So I've found a retriever I like anyway. I'm just shaking that above the bottom, so it's... Oh, what are you? You got a bit more weight, better fish. Just hooked up a little bit. About the same size, a little tiny bit bigger. Well, that's cool. That's two bream and a few casts on that ST GrubZ opening night. Now you might think, why have I gone this clear natural colour? Why have I gone this clear natural colour if I've said that the water is a bit dirty? The thing is, I'm only fishing in 1/2 metre of water, and I've got that sun over there, so what I'm doing is I'm hoping to use the sun to catch the glitter in this plastic. So this plastic's got a nice silver fleck through it, so I'm hoping to create that natural scale flash. So normally in this sort of watercolor I'd fish darker silhouettes, especially if the water was deeper, but because it's shallow, and I've had good success on this flat before fishing the prawn, the ZMan 2.5 inch prawns in opening night color, so I know they like this color, and I can use that sun capture that flash. So there we go, that's 2 bream in quick time. Not big ones, but if those guys are going to eat it, the big ones will eat it, no problem. We'll just keep drifting our way along and see if we can get a few bites. So you can see I've sort of settled into a retrieve. Once I got that rattle, I was like, yep, this retrieve, they're eating this retrieve, so that's the go. And then I've got 2 fish, so that's cracking a pattern. I've got my plastic, I've got my jighead, I've got my retrieve, and I've got my pattern that's working this morning. Hopefully it continues to do so. So I'm just in 0.6 it says now, so around ½ a metre of water, and I can feel that tap the bottom every now and then, and when I feel it tap the bottom, I'm just twitching it up off the weed there. So I'm keeping it up. I'm probably predominantly fishing about maybe mid-water, and those fish are up here hunting across the flat. So they're actively feeding, so they don't mind chasing this little jelly prawn or bait fish, whatever it might be. That SD GrubZ is a great representation of all sorts of little critters that these guys feed on. So might be a jelly prawn if the jelly prawns are here, might be a bait fish if they're feeding on bait fish. So effective plastic. It's funny, as I often do when I was gearing up last night, setting up plackies and jig heads and that sort of thing, I gravitated towards the plastic that I thought would work. I put onto my favourite combo, and that often sort of pans out that way. So I've got the TT Rods Black Mamba 1 to 3 kilo, which is a beautiful rod for punching long casts with light plastics. It's very responsive, it's a real nice rod, and I've got it with an ITX 1000, so a nice small size reel. I have this tendency to fish fast, so by going for a smaller reel, it slows me down a bit, just purely because the line pickup is reduced on a smaller reel. So I've got a 1000 ITX on there, which is beautiful and smooth, and I've got 6 pound Platypus Pulse X8 braid on there in white colour. It's nice and easy to see and all of that sort of thing. So white colour, and then I've got a 10 pound hard armour leader in that hard armour Supple leader, which has been doing really good for me. And you know, it's an excellent leader. It's a mono leader, like a nylon monofilament leader, so it doesn't drag your plastics down in the water or anything like that. It's got good abrasion resistance. It feels real nice, and it's been doing the job. So that's my combo. I can actually see on the sounder here we've gotten deeper, so we've fallen off the edge of the flat, so I'm just going to put us back up on the flat. That wind's messing with us a little bit this morning. So I'm using the sounder here to put myself back on the flat. So I dropped off that other side into 1.9 meters of water. I'm now back up into 0.8, and I'm up on the flat. I can see that rise on the sounder. So I'm going to paddle across until I see the flat drop on the other side, because the wind's pushing me across the flat. So that'll give me sort of maximum drift up with the current and across the flat. So she's still getting shallower here, 0.6. This is where the fish are on this tide. While they've got access to this flat, they're going to be up on top of here. So I want to make sure that I'm up on top of the flat in the shallows. 0.5. You can hear that wind blowing. That wind is pushing me across the flat. So ideally we'd have no wind, or we'd have that wind either slowing our drift on the flat or speeding our drift up slightly on the flat, not blowing us across the flat. But we'll make the most of it. We'll use it to push us across the flat instead. 0.4, right up in the shallow dirty stuff now. I don't know if you can see how dirty that water is. It's pretty gross. One good thing about the dirty water and the breeze is we don't have a lot of other boats out on the water, so our flat shouldn't be too stressed by boat traffic and all that sort of thing. So hopefully the fish stay up on here and are confident to feed. Pretty shallow here. You may not be able to see the depth too much because of the dirty water, but depth wise it's that deep. So it's not deep, you can see there. It's a bit over a paddle blade deep there, so probably 40 centimeters or something like that. So don't be afraid to get up in the shallow water when the tide is running in and the fish are pushing up onto the flat like this. Doesn't take a lot of water to hold a bream or a flatty or a grunter, trevally, those sorts of things. Get up here and feed. So about 40 centimeters of water, and we've already got a couple of bream. There's a bit of bait just flicked there. Yep, there we go, there's a fish. Oh, I saw that. It was a little bream, fell off. There you go, that's that 40 centimeters of water and another rattle. Might be a few up on here. A bit of bait flicking just over there. We might have found some bait. Oh yeah, that got drilled. That was awesome. I just flicked that up. That actually broke the surface, and as it went back subsurface, it got absolutely drilled by this guy. And he is cranky. Oh, come on, buddy. Yeah, that's a good bream. That's a good bream on the ST grubs. Oh, look at that guy. That's what we want to hook, a few more of them. So you can see he liked to look at that prawn. Look at that ST grubs. He's thinking jelly prawn or bait fish. And as it broke the surface, he was all over it. It dropped back down and boom, fish on. He just drilled it as it fell back down into the water. All right, buddy. Another beautiful hook up in that jaw hinge as well. All right, we'll send you back on your way. Nice brimbo in the shallows. That was an awesome take. While we're in this little spot, see if we can get another couple before we move off the bait. Drift further along the flat. Happy with this retrieve too over the flat. Just giving it a few twitches, winding up the slack on the pause. That one actually ate it on the pause, caught me out a little bit as I was dropping it back into the water. Still managed to hook him, so that was good. So I'm basically just throwing a long cast. I'm giving it a few shakes up and I'm winding the slack as I drop it back down. So a few shakes, winding up the slack. Yeah, oh, that was the bottom. Getting too excited now. So a few shakes, wind up the slack. A few shakes, wind up the slack. Sometimes I'll tap it on the shakes. Sometimes I'll drill it on the pause. Yep, there we go. I could feel that one eating it. Well, that might be something we don't want to catch. That might be a yellowtail pike for a long time maybe. Hopefully it's a brimbo. Oh no, no, that feels a bit better. Brimbo. Brimbo number 4. I've almost got my bag. Need 5 for my bag, so that's another legally. They're loving it. They're loving it this morning. You can see they're eating that really well. We haven't really talked about the other cool feature of this plastic, and that is that split tail. So that split tail design on this plastic gives it a really cool, seductive flutter on the paws. It ensures it's got loads of action even on slow retrieves. Even on a light jighead slow retrieves, it's got a real seductive flutter on the fall. Really cool stand-up movement as it just sits on the bottom with the current moving all those little fingers around. Oh, there's some bait just there. We're going to come back through that. And when I'm shaking it like I am here, you've got even more action because you've got those little fingers dancing all over the place as well as the tail working. So what that means is more action, more vibration, and especially when you're fishing slow on light heads. So it's going to be awesome for the bream guys with that combination of that rib body and that split tail. But like the 2.5 inch grubs, I also think it's going to catch, you know, I think we clocked the 2.5 inch grubs in at well over 100 different species, which was brilliant. I remember a while back on Facebook we asked you guys what you've caught on it, and we ended up with well over 100 different species. And this grubs is going to be the same. Freshwater guys going to love it, estuary, river, creek guys, even inshore stuff, you know, snapper and all that, they're going to get on this. So yeah, pretty exciting addition to the range. Bit of work went into it, and it's cool to see the finished product come together, and it's in a dozen awesome colors, including the oil family. Oh, there's another tap, come on. So plenty of colors in the range to keep everyone happy as well. I probably should pick up and flick another color. I just love this color. I think our bait moved on and our fish went with it, so we just got to keep fanning our casts and keep an eye out for any bait movement, fish feeding. Good thing about drifting a flat like this one is, you know, you drift from one patch of bait and one school of fish to another, so you can normally just keep drifting and bump into a few fish again. Otherwise, if you do, oh, there's a rattle. That's a bit close to the yak. Where are you, buddy? Yep, there it is. Ate it right at the yak. You can see there when I got close to the yak and I was running out of water, I just gave that one a twitch, twitch, twitch. Didn't wind a lot of line in, just to keep it in the zone and keep that fish on it, and he's just picked that up and drilled it. So that was pretty cool. We were just talking about bumping into a few fish. Not a monster, but puts a bend in the rod. Good fun. So there you go. So yeah, making the most of those short windows of time to get out there, catch a couple of fish. And yeah, flats is good fun fishing. Don't forget, if you're land based, these flats are everywhere as well. If you go somewhere at low tide and there's no water there, you know, big areas that you might go and fish those edges for flathead when the tide's right out. When the tide comes in and covers those flats, they're another good spot that's worth having a look at. So you might be able to walk along the edge and throw big long casts with light gear on those flats. So the fish come up on those flats to feed, so they're generally active. The other thing you can do is get yourself a pair of wading shoes, old sneakers or something, decent footwear, and get out on that flat and wade that flat, walk around and look for those key areas of structure like weed beds and drop-offs and edges and rock bars and timber and any sort of structure that might hold the fish. Used to love wading the flats when I was a kid and caught some nice fish doing it as well, bream and flatties and all sorts of things. So that's another option. You've got flats that you can access land-based, so keep those in mind as well, especially for those quick sessions before and after work or early morning, late arvo. If you do find a patch of fish on the flat, don't forget you can spot lock with your lecky if you're in a boat and you've got electric motor. Otherwise, if you're in the yak, you can grab your anchor, drop it out and stay on those fish. Or keep an eye on your landmarks as well, beacons and trees and those sorts of things that might help you mark that spot on the flat so that you can come back to where you caught those fish. Just in case the fish aren't all over the flat, you might need to focus. Oh, he's realised he's hooked now. Flatfish, is it? It is a flatfish, only a little fella. There's a flatty on the grubs. Yeah, use those landmarks to help come back to your spot just in case the fish are focused in one area. They can be focused in one area if there's some, there you go, there's a little flatty. They can be focused in one area if there's, you know, weed or rock or a depression in the flat or something that holds them there. So you can go back and fish that same sort of area. A lot of the time they'll just be spread across the flats and they're moving with the bait and that sort of thing. So you can just keep drifting the flat for the duration of the time that you're on there. So, you know, you might do an hour of run in at the end of the run in and then do an hour of run out when the tide turns. Sometimes the fish bite better on the run in, sometimes they bite better on the run out. So I like to focus around that tide change. You can just drift your way across that flat and keep coming across new fish. The other thing is, by drifting an entire flat, you soon work out where the productive areas are, but you also might find different species on different sections of the flat. So, you know, you at the start of the flat might hold bream. As you get across more to the middle of the flat, you might come across flatties, and then at the other end you might find trebs feeding aggressively on a pressure point or something like that. So by covering water and drifting that flat, you get to understand the flat better. And some flats that I fish, you know, I'll find one half of it's more productive than the other, so I'll concentrate there. Other times, you know, you just drift that whole flat because it holds fish right across the flat. What are you flicking over to the side of me here? Eating bait. Are you a brimbo? You should eat that. Eating bait. Yep, there we go. That's what you can do, just keep an ear out. I didn't even see that bait, so that was the thing. I heard that bait flick off to my side there. Heard the bait flick, through to the bait, got the hook up. What are you? You feel pretty solid. Oh, cranky. Nice bream up there eating that bait. There you go. So that was the ears that caught that fish, nothing else. My ears listening for bait. I was listening and I heard that off to the side of me, which was a bream slurping a prawn or a bait fish. Flicked into the general area, and this guy's in attack mode. He's hunting, so no problem. He just zoned straight in on that placky. He drilled it. Nice bream, decent bream. Oh, good fun up on the flats. And that was, thank you ears for catching that one. Back in the water. Well, there you go. That's a great little plucky, that 2.5 inch SD GrubZ. That was another nice shallow water brimbo. Yeah, great fun. He was on the job, that guy. He definitely got on that quickly. So I'll just work the area where he came from, because often there'll be more than one fish. They might be moving across the flat in a school, so if I work that area where I got that fish, potentially could be more working that same area and working that same patch of bait. So just worth throwing a few casts in that same area. That was a nice bream. Have good fun. Love catching those guys any day of the week. That size there. Not monsters, but just good, healthy, solid fish. Yep, there's another one. Yep. Same sort of area. And he's drilled that. So there you go. If you get one in an area like that, especially when you pull it from bait, worth getting back in there with another cast. He's a bit smaller, that guy, but still good fun. SD GrubZ opening night colour, simply because we're in the shallows, catching that sunlight with that, on that flash and glitter of that plastic. And it's just a nice translucent, sort of naturally prawn or bait fish colour. We keep firing, hey? We keep firing at the same area. You never know. We might have a few friends. Yep, there we go. Drilled it. Flatfish, I think, up in the shallow water. Oh, he's cranky too. Oh, off he goes. Oh, good fun. He smacked that. Smacked it, managed to shake it. That's all good. Saved me getting spiked. But that's how, like, the water depth here now is just nothing. So I might have to work my way along the flat a bit further, try and find that ½ metre. We're definitely in some shallow stuff at the moment. With that lack of water movement because of the small difference between high and low tide. Little water movement on this flat, which is just, it's sort of a little bit dead on here now. The tide's turned and it is slowly dropping. Kind of feels a little bit dead, like we need to do a move, because without the water, oh, there we go, just wanted to prove me wrong. Might be a flat fish. With that lack of water flow, we're not getting the bait movement. The fish aren't moving as much, the fish aren't as aggressive. This one feels all right though. Oh, it's silver. Grunter. Grunter's still hunting around with this lack of water movement. Oh, that was a line burner in shallow water, good fun. So just when I was saying how it's slackened off, which it has, it feels quiet on here. The bait's slowed right down, the water movement slowed, the fish have slowed, and this little grunter nails it. Great fun on light gear in shallow water. Ease up buddy, ease up buddy. Geez, once he bit that, he went crazy across the flats. See you later, mate. Yep, there we go. There's another one of me mates. One's a Brembo. Of course, when I said things were slowing down a little, the fish bite again. We're almost off this flat anyway. That's another little Brembo. Oh, back in you go, buddy. That's the great thing about that super soft and flexible 10 times tough Z-Man as well. You know, that's turtle. That one plastic has caught a bunch of fish already. I'm just going to rub a little bit more scent into those ribs. It's brilliant. And that's that tail we were talking about. You can see there the multitude of fingers on that tail, which gives it that real finesse-y fall in the water and that real nice tail flutter. Lots and lots of action. Very cool. Okay folks, you can probably hear that wind blowing across the mic. The wind has kicked up with that turn of the tide, starting to get a little bit lumpy and that sort of thing out of here, and we've had a pretty good little session on that end of the run-in tide, fishing that ZMan 2.5 inch ST grubs across the flats for a bream. So I reckon that's going to be a deadly little addition to everybody's kit. Holds that scent well. It's got loads of action in that tail, and as you saw today, not ideal conditions, but we still landed a handful of bream, a couple of grunter and a couple of flatties as well. So a good little session, giving that ST grubs first run for me with the finished product. So yeah, super happy and super keen to get out there and fish it on a few more species. All right, all the best with the fishing. Hopefully there was a few tips in there for fishing the flats as well, and you can get out there and slay a few. All the best with the fishing. Cheers.